So, I'd like to pick up on where we stopped nung nag-face-to-face classes tayo. And this time, we'll just have to discuss two more material. One would be semiconductors and the other would be polymers. So before we could understand semiconductors and how they work, we'll have to understand the band theory of electrical conductivity. When we say band theory, class, it means that we it states basically that in a certain material, electrons are delocalized and they can move freely through bands by overlapping molecular orbitals. So for now, let's just not discuss too much on molecular orbitals, but what I want you to picture is that in a specific material composed of atoms and even molecules, electrons can move freely from one molecule to another, and that is through what we call as a band. Now, band theory, in this case, describes the energy levels of electrons in solid materials. So it can tell us how electrons would behave in solids and kung ano yung relationship nila sa energy and behavior of other particles around them. So sa band theory, it also describes three specific parts in a specific material. So meron tayong tinatawag na conduction band, valence band, at saka yung band gap. So these are hypothetical regions in a material, and the conduction band is a specific part in a material or in crystalline solid, where in this case, electrons are actually highly mobile and are responsible for electrical conductivity. And this is where in a crystalline solid, okay, these are the localized band of energy levels in a crystalline solid that is partially filled with electrons. Yung valence band naman sa isang material is an energy band din na naglalaman naman ng valence electrons. Now, recall, ng valence electrons ay yung mga electrons na nasa outermost energy level ng isang atom. So if we are to talk about the valence band, we talk about electrons that are in the outermost level of an atom. So when given enough energy, itong mga valence electrons na to na nasa valence band, okay, they can be free electrons. And they will travel towards the conduction band, resulting in electrical conductivity. So si conduction band, this is partially filled with electrons already, and yung mga electrons dito are highly mobile, and it's also responsible for electrical conductivity. Yung mga electrons natin na nasa valence band, when they were given enough energy, they can travel, they can travel to the conduction band, and it will result to electrical conductivity. Si band gap naman is yung energy gap difference between the valence and the conduction band. So itong band gap po na ito, ang kailangan na ma-overcome ng mga valence electrons na nasa valence band para sila ay makaakyat sa conduction band. If they can transfer from valence, yung electrons dito, if they can transfer towards the conduction band, then the material is capable of electrical conductivity. So para mangyari yon, yung mga electrons mo sa valence band, dapat ma-overcome nila yung tinatawag nating band energy or energy gap. Band energy or energy gap, which gives us yung mga band gaps. So as we can see po, kaya po ang mga metals ay very good conductors of heat and electricity kasi sa metal itself, wala pong band gap. No band gap. So that means if you give the material, a metal material, electricity, electrons can easily migrate from the valence band into the conduction band. Whereas sa semiconductors naman class, mayroong little bit of a band gap, no? And if we input electricity or energy into the semiconducting material, then the electrons in the band gap in the valence band, will have a little bit of help para makatawid into the conduction band. Kaya rin naman po sa insulator ay hindi nagkakandak ng electricity kasi yung band gap, no, between the conduction and the valence band is so big na hindi enough yung electricity for energy na lalagay natin para yung electrons na to ay makatawid papunta sa conduction band. Okay? Now, it's also good to know na kapag ang mga electrons ay umalis sa valence band papunta sa conduction band, nagiiwan sila ng tinatawag nating mga positive holes. Okay? So these positive holes are specific parts in the material sa valence band na naiwanan ng electron. Ano naman ang nangyayari sa conduction band? There will be an aggregate or an aggregation of electrons. So magkakaroon naman dyan ng electrons, no, dito sa conduction band. Ito yung tinatawag nating electron and then hole pair. No? So yung H dyan na may positive means that positive holes are being left in the valence band as soon as the electrons migrate from the valence band into the conduction band. So yun yung tinatawag nating electron and hole pair. Okay? So now let's turn ourselves into the semiconductors. So as what we've said from the band theory, hindi naman talaga ang mga semiconductors are not conductors, but they are capable of conducting electricity at elevated temperatures or when combined with small amount of other elements. So ang madalas natin na ginagamit na semiconductor ay silicon, no? And we can say that this band gap or this band energy illustration can be from a silicon atom na nasa loob ng isang semiconductor. No? So in order to enhance yung mga semiconducting properties, no, ng mga elements, we can do this by adding small amounts of certain impurities. Ang tawag natin sa process na to na nag-a-add tayo ng impurities ng mga elements sa isang semiconductor ay doping. So because of this, meron pong dalawang klase ng semiconductor. Yung N-type semiconductor at saka yung P-type semiconductor. Yung N-type po na semiconductor, ito po ay isang semiconductor na kung saan yung conductivity ng semiconductor na to ay in-increase nung denope natin yung semiconductor ng atoms na mas maraming valence electrons kaysa doon sa atoms ng host crystal. So, ibig sabihin nito, ang tawag natin dito, no, yung impurities na to ay tinatawag nating donor impurities and they provide conduction electrons. So, anong example niyan? So, ito. So, let's say for example, alam natin na ang isang semiconductor, kung silicon yan, if these are silicon, if we change one of those silicons into a different element, let's say for example, nitrogen will have 5 valence electrons. Whereas si silicon, 4 valence electrons lang. No? So kung halimbawa din, ganun din, phosphorus halimbawa, phosphorus also have 5 valence electrons. And then si silicon ay 4 valence electrons lang. So kung papalitan natin yung isang silicon, gagawin nating phosphorus for example, merong sobrang electron, no? Yung valence electron, merong sobrang electron si phosphorus, and this electron this electron is what we call as a conducting electron. Okay? Kaya siya tinawag na N-type kasi negative type semiconductor because of the surplus of negatively charged particles. So kapag mas madami tayong pinalit, halimbawa ginawa natin tong P, ginawa rin natin tong P, then there will be a surplus of negative charges o yung tinatawag nating conducting electrons. So by introducing also, dito yon through this diagram, makikita natin na yung excess valence electrons galing doon sa donor impurity will help, no, these electrons dahil hindi naman sila originally galing doon sa silicon, kundi ito ay galing sa phosphorus or kung ano man yung impurity, will be easily transported or mas madali silang mai-promote papunta sa conduction band kaysa sa manggaling pa sila mismo sa valence band, which results to better electrical conductivity. The other opposite of this is what we call as the p-type semiconductor. Si p-type naman, kabaliktaran, kung n-type is negative type, p-type is positive type. Paano ibig sabihin nito? Ito naman ay nabubuo kapag yung atoms na denote mo ay mas onte yung valence electrons kesa doon sa atoms ng host crystal. No? So, ang tawag natin sa mga ganitong donator ay acceptor impurities. And itong mga impurities na to are electron deficient. So kung sa n-type may sobrang electron, dahil 5 yung valence electrons ng impurity, sa p-type mas onte yung electrons. So, in this case, if this is for example boron, si boron po ay 3 lang ang kanyang valence electrons. Tapos si silicon ay 4 valence electrons. So dahil dyan, merong abundance ng positive charge. So kung pinalitan natin yung bawat silicon dito na halimbawa boron, dadami ngayon yung positive charges, no? And this will assist, no? Para ang mangyayari, meron na tayo kapag nag-pass through yung electrons dito, mas madali na malilipat yung electrons paakyat doon because of this what we call as yung hole, positive holes na binabanggit ko kanina. So mayroong mga electron vacancies due to the doping of atoms and this contributes to better conductivity kasi yung electrons na magpapass through sa pamamagitan ng electricity will occupy this electron hole pair and they will be easily promoted into the conduction band, leading to better electrical conductivity. So meron din po tayong tinatawag na conjunction. If we combine both the P and N, this if yung P and N conjunction is basically involves kapag ang isang p-type ay at ang n-type semiconductor ay in contact. So at the junction, a small number of electrons migrate from the n-type papunta dun sa p-type. So remember na yung p-type natin, yan ay may mga positive holes. Tapos yung n-type ay may surplus or sobrang electron. So where there are vacancies in low energy molecular orbitals. So the effect ng migration, no, is to place a negative charge doon sa p-type, okay? And since it now has a surplus of electrons and a positive charge naman doon sa n-type region. And this yields to better conducting electrical conductivity. So parang ganito siya. So yung charge carrier sa p-type ay yung tinatawag nating holes. Kasi nga, positive sila. Tapos, yung charge carriers naman sa n-type region ay yung mismong electrons. So, current readily flows forward, no? Forward bias yan. So, yung mga electrons mo, no, the electrons that crosses the boundary leaves a hole behind, no? So, itong mga electrons from the n-type, these electrons from the n-type, pag pumunta sila papunta sa p-type, mag-iiwan sila ng hole. Okay? Thus, the electrons and the holes move in opposite direction. Tapos, yung mga holes naman ay parang lumilipat sila doon sa n-type. So, sa p-type, papunta sa p-type yung mga electrons, papunta naman sa n-type yung mga positive holes. So parang dahil ito ay cycle lang, continuous ang flow ng electricity sa isang PN conjunction. Yung electrons papunta sa p-type, yung holes papunta naman sa n-type. So habang dumadami yung electrons na nasa p-type, padami din naman ng padami yung holes na napupunta naman sa n-type. Okay? So yan po kung paano gumagana ang PN conjunction in a semiconductor. And basically, karamihan po ng semiconductors na meron na tayo ngayon ay isang PN conjunction. Okay? Next. So that's for the semiconductor. It's merely for appreciation. Now let's move to the last portion ng mga materials na i-discuss natin. And that would be the polymer. As what I have said, nung nag-face-to-face lesson tayo, ang mga polymers, mataas ang molar mass, okay? And they are formed through the stringing together ng mga smaller molecules na tinatawag nating monomers. Ang mga monomers, kapag sila ay nagsasama-sama through intramolecular force, no? Intramolecular force, specifically covalent bonding, no? They can form long chains of monomers, and when long chains of monomers are formed, we call them a polymer. Okay, so constructed sila by sequential stringing together of smaller molecules. Kaya, dahil sa dami ng mga monomer, for example, itong repeating unit na to, sa dami ng ganitong repeating unit, it can go up to thousands of these monomers, mabigat ang molar mass ng mga polymer. Okay, kasi nakakailang beses sila na pinagsasama-sama. So meron tayong mga iba't ibang classification ng polymer. So meron tayong classification ng polymers according sa kung saan siya nanggaling. So yung una, natural. So of course, ito yung mga polymers na nag-occur in nature. Example niyan ay si cellulose, natural rubber from the rubber tree. Cotton is also a polymer. Natural silk, wool, starch, no? Starch from, ang tawag dito, from potato starch or even yung corn starch, these are considered to be natural polymers. Semi-synthetic naman is kumuha ka ng natural polymer and then you modify it. For example, mayroon tayong natural rubber. Ang ginagawa dyan ng rubber industry, they hydrogenate it in order to produce yung mga rubbers na nagagamit natin sa industry tulad ng tire at saka ng mga iba pang rubbers na ginagamit for sealant, as a sealant, no? So, ganun yun, minomodify natin yung natural polymers, then we have what we call as a semi-synthetic polymer. Pag synthetic naman, ito yung basically synthesized na in the laboratory. Ano example niyan? Yung mga plastics, yung mga polyethylene, mga polyethylene terephthalate, mga polyvinyl chloride, nylon, Dacron, at saka yung polystyrene, which is yung styrofoam. Bakit nagagawa ng polymer na mag-long chains? Kasi yung bond ng carbon with itself ay napakalakas at napaka-stable. So ito ang nagbibigay ng advantage sa polymer kasi itong mga C to C bonds, covalent bonds, can serve as the backbone of most synthetic material polymers available. So polymers, basically, most of its content will be carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and even hydrogen. So, next, ano naman yung classification ng polymers according sa mode of formation? So, yung isa, of course, addition polymers. Ito yung simple addition lang ng monomer to each other in a quick succession. By a mechanism. Ano mga example niyan? Polyethylene, polypropylene, polystyrene. Okay? The other one is condensation. Si condensation, no, ito yung klase ng polymer na may polar groups, meaning may dipole groups. Okay? And then it involves yung pag-remove ng small molecules. Removal of small molecules habang nadadagdag yung mga monomers sa isa't isa is a condensation polymer. Si copolymerization is ito naman ay nangyayari kapag two or more molecules undergo joint polymerization. So to illustrate this is an example of the process of addition polymerization. So makita natin very straightforward lang. Ina-add lang, ito yung repeating unit natin, no? Ito yung repeating unit. So basically, ini-initiate muna 'yan, tapos magkakaroon ng propagation, dinadagdag yung iba pang mga parts or component. So ito yung repeating unit talaga natin. So habang dinadagdag siya ng dinadagdag doon sa parent, Yung nauna, hahaba ng hahaba ito. So that's an addition polymer. Simple addition lang. Then yung condensation naman is ito yan. So meron kang polar group tulad nito. Yung mga polar groups na yan can act as a dipole. Now, if we combine, for example, ethylene glycol at saka terephthalic acid, merong loss of water, pero mabubuo itong tinatawag nating ester linkage. Ang ester linkage po ay ganito siya, carbon na naka-double bond sa oxygen at isang oxygen na naka-single bond. And then itong oxygen na to ay nakakonect sa kung ano pang molecule, and then ito ay nakakonect din sa ano pang molecule. So ang tawag natin dito ay yung ester linkage. And kadalasan sa ganyang paraan po nabubuo ang mga condensation polymer. And it also involves a loss of water. May nawawalang tubig kapag may condensation polymerization. So ganun din po dito. This is an example of condensation polymerization. And these are condensation polymers and their utilizations or yung uses nila. Si polyurethane ay ginagamit as foam para sa furniture stuffings. Ginagamit din siya sa footwear and water protective coatings. Si polyethylene terephthalate naman, or also known as a polyester, or as a kind of polyester, ginagamit siya sa tire cord, magnetic tape, apparel, at saka soft drink bottles. Yung mga plastic bottles natin, mostly PET ang laman yan, or simply polyethylene terephthalate. At ito po yung monomer niya, and kapag pinagsama-sama ito ng maraming beses, no, ito ay dumadami, humahaba, nabubuo yung polyethylene terephthalate. Si nylon 6,6 naman, ginagamit sa home furnishings, apparel, carpet, fishing line, at saka toothbrush bristles. Okay? Then lastly, polycarbonate ay ginagamit sa shatterproof eyeglass lenses, CDs, DVDs, bulletproof windows as part of the component po ng ceramics and glass, at saka sa mga greenhouse gases para doon sa mga sa agricultural sector. So yan po ang gamit ng polycarbonates. Okay, so please be familiar with their uses. Then, sa copolymerization naman, ito yung combination ng two or more different molecule that are combined through a joint. Ano yung joint na sinasabi dito? Ibig sabihin, mayroong specific part dito na yun ang makikipag-bind dito para mabuo yung SBr o yung tinatawag nating GRS rubber. So kung makikita natin ang joint, ang copolymerization ay all about tawag dyan, naghahanap ka ng isang double bond at itong double bond na to ay magiging single bond para po makapag-connect yung dalawang molecule. So ang GRS rubber is basically yung ginagamit sa mga amplifiers, ginagamit din sa gulong, no, and even yung ibang sapatos na rubber yung outsole. So yan ay gawa rin po sa SBR o yung tinatawag nating GRS rubber. Now, how about classification naman ng polymer na nakadepende sa chain structure? Kapag chain structure, we have a homopolymer. Homopolymer, ibig sabihin, yung monomer na ginagamit dito ay isang type lang. So, halimbawa, sa polyethylene, so kung polyethylene siya, homopolymer siya dahil ang laman niya is just ethylene. So, paulit-ulit, all throughout, ethylene lang ang laman nito. Si polyvinyl chloride naman, PVC, so ang monomer nito is also just vinyl chloride. No, yung basic unit nitong polymer na to ay vinyl chloride. Kapag polyvinylidene chloride, di ganun din, instead na vinyl chloride naman yung laman, vinylidene chloride yung basic unit niya. So basta tandaan, Kapag ang polymer, iisa lang yung kanyang monomer component, no, isang type lang ng monomer, then we call it a homopolymer. Kapag copolymer naman, ito yung tinatawag naman natin na pag meron ng nagsasalitan yung repeating units along a chain are magkakaiba. Pag alternating copolymer, so if this is component A and then B, nag-alternate lang yung A and B sa buong chain. Kapag black copolymer, ito yung by every 3 ay nagbabago yung number ay yung identity ng monomer. So kung halimbawa, yung first 3 monomers na pinagsama ay parehas lang na polyethylene, and then yung sumunod na tatlo ay mga terephthalic acid, which is another type of polymer, a monomer rather, then we have a black copolymer. Kapag random copolymer, there is no pattern at all between the two or more different components. Kapag graph copolymer, meron kang yung isang component, let's say yung red IB, yung mga other component ay naka-branch lang siya. They are branching out the um, from one of the components. So if a polymer will contain both A and B, yung graft copolymer, si B, for example, component B, will be the backbone, and then yung mga branching is yung component A. Or pwede rin baliktad, si component A yung backbone, tapos yung mga branching ay si component B. So ganun po ang graft copolymer. Okay, so this is an example of a copolymer, yung lycra spandex, which is ginagamit natin no sa mga ang tawag natin diyan yung um, mga stretchable na damit, for example sa mga shorts, no, even yung mga ginagamit ng mga nagsiswim, no, yung mga nagsiswimming, or yung mga nag-involve into yoga or even exercises in the gym, yung mga nasi-stretch na klase ng tela, yan po ay isang copolymer. No, paano yan nabubuo? Kung makikita natin dito, dalawa ang component niyan. Andyan yung first specific part, no, which is flexible, stretching molecular segment, and it's the softer, rubbery in character. Ito yung nagbibigay ng elasticity doon sa lycra spandex. Tapos, to keep the lycra spandex in place, para hindi siya napupunit kahit anong bend mo or kahit anong pulling ang gawin mo, hindi siya basta-basta mapupunit. So, kailangan natin itong portion naman na to, and it gives the rigid segment of the polymer na nagbibigay ng polymer strength. Kaya, yung strength at saka elasticity ng isang lycra spandex fiber is because of two polymers joined together. The one provides elasticity, and then the other provides polymer strength. So, if we will look at it in the molecular situation, we can illustrate na yung kulay blue, ito yung relaxed, no? And then yung stretch is yung kulay pula. So this diagram represents a single double molecular arrangement, unstretch and stretch. And so this is repeated down the polymer molecule, which ultimately makes the way the fiber behaves. So kaya yung mga lycra spandex ay durable even though they can be elastic. It's because of these two components. Okay? So, yeah. Now, this is another example naman ng graft copolymer. Kapag graft copolymer, example niyan ay acrylonitrile butadiene styrene. Mapansin natin na yung B, yung butadiene, can be considered as the backbone. Tapos, yung styrene at saka yung acrylonitrile, sila naman yung branching component. No? So, si polystyrene provides ease of processing, glossiness, and rigidity. Yung acrylonitrile adds chemical resistance and hardness. Then si butadiene naman provides impact assistance. No, so ito yung nagba-branch out na components. Then ito yung component na nagsuserve as the backbone of the polymer. So that's an example of a graft copolymer. Now, Now let's go to classification naman ng polymers in terms of thermal response. So dalawa lang yan. We call thermoplastics or yung mga thermoplastic polymers. Ito yung soften, lumalambot sila kapag pinainit mo, and then they harden when they cool down. So, and this process is totally reversible and pwedeng ulit-ulitin. No? So, ang tawag natin sa mga ganong klase ng polymer, kapag mainit, they soften, and then when they are cooled, they harden. Examples niyan yung mga garbage plastics natin, no? Yung garbage plastic, no, na kulay itim, that is considered to be a thermoplast. Kapag kayan ay pinaapoyan mo, it will liquefy. And then eventually, pag nag-cool down yan, magiging solid siya entirely. So that's an example of a thermoplastic. Thermosets naman, ito yung mga thermosetting polymer, they become permanently hard during formation and they do not soften up upon heating. Ang example niyan ay polyvinyl chloride. Ang mga PVC pipes at saka yung polyvinylidene chloride, kahit initin mo yan, they do not easily soften down. No, kasi permanently they are hard. So kahit na hinitin mo, they will not soften. So bakit ganun? Pagdating sa structure, if we would look at it, yung mga thermoplastic layers, they only interact through intermolecular forces. So they can slide down. So let's say pwedeng van der Waals force lang yun nandito. No? So they can slide down to each other. And dahil mahina yung force na nag-interact between layers of this polymer, they can easily liquefy or soften. Ang thermosets naman, ito yun naman ay tied together by actual chemical bonds or basically intramolecular force. And because of this, hindi sila basta-basta magsusoften because of the existence of this chemical bonds between the layers of the thermosets. Okay? So that has something to do with the forces available or present within those polymers. Then last, let's go to what we call as polymer compounding. So ito yung compounding, ito yung process po ng pag-a-add ng additives sa mga plastics. Take note, plastics po ang pinag-uusapan lang natin dito, na klase ng polymer. So ang mga common additives sa plastics, of course, we have resin. Resins will bind all the additives together. Fillers naman, it can modify the properties of the plastics and will contribute to better hardness, tensile strength, and even workability. No, meaning pwedeng ma-reshape into different shapes na gustuhin ng isang manufacturer. No? So we add fillers to add hardness, tensile strength, and then workability. Plasticizers naman, ito yung small molecules na pwedeng mag-penetrate sa polymer mismo, and this increases the mobility of the polymer segments. So that chains can slide over to each other. So para ma-allow na yung mga chains ng isang polymer ay pwedeng mag-side sa isa't isa, nagdadagdag tayo ng plasticizer. Ang ginagawa ni plasticizer, in-neutralize niya yung in a way some parts of the intermolecular force between the molecules in a polymer. Parang pinapahina niya yung intermolecular force na meron sa isang polymer so that the chains can slide with each other. Then coloring materials naman, so of course, this is to improve the aesthetic effect lang ng material, yung kulay. Catalysts are added naman para magtuloy-tuloy yung cross-linking. Ibig sabihin yung dito sa for example nito, through chemical bonds, nagko-cross-link yung bawat layer ng polymer sa isa't isa. No? So they create a cross-linking. Para magawa yung cross-linking, nagdadagdag tayo ng catalysts, no, sa thermosets. Stabilizers naman, improve thermal stability. No? Kahit na paapoyan mo or painitan mo yung polymer, it will remain stable. No? So yun yung stabilizer. Then lastly, anti-statics, dinadagdag ito para ma-dissipate yung electrical charge developed by conducting it away. So those are the common additives that we use for polymer compounding. So let me just summarize the lesson on polymers. and basically this is going to be the last part ng chemistry of engineering materials, it's good to remember that we can recycle plastics. And at the bottom of every plastic container, you will be able to see a recycle symbol containing a number. Now, and this number, no, tulad nito, sa mga nakikita natin dito, this number represents a certain type of polymer, kung ano, saan sila gawa na polymer. And na number and the letter abbreviation below it indicate kung anong klase ng polymer gawa yung material na yon. So these symbols make it possible to sort containers by composition. Kasi kapag nakapunta kayo sa isang plastic or polymer recycling facility, you will be seeing na itong mga plastics na to will be sorted based on their composition, and through this symbol, recycle symbol, they will be able to do the sorting efficiently. So kapag lower, kapag mas mababa yung number na nandoon sa loob ng recycle symbol, mas madali po itong ma-recycle. Ulitin ko, kapag mas mababa yung number na nasa loob ng recycle symbol, mas madaling ma-recycle yung material na yon. So for example, pag number 1, that would be PET or polyethylene terephthalate, or pwedeng PETE, parehas lang ng sinasabi yan. Pag number 2, that's HDPE or high density polyethylene. Kapag ka 3 or pwedeng V or PVC, then that's polyvinyl chloride. Kapag 4, then that's LDPE or low density polyethylene. Kapag 5, we have PP or polypropylene. And then 6, PS, polystyrene. So, if we will look at um, yung table na to, ang pinakamahirap talagang i-degrade or i-recycle sa lahat would be polystyrene. Wherein polystyrene is basically styrofoam. So if you want to help the environment, for example, by not increasing the number of polymer wastes that we have, I would really encourage you not to use styrofoam in any way. Sadly, because of the polystyrene's durability and ease of manufacturing, mas maraming tumatangkilik ng styrofoams, which is polystyrene, kesa sa mga polyethylene. But let us remember that there's a certain limit kung limit kung gaano kadaming plastics or polymers yung pwede nating ma-recycle. So, if you continue to use single-use plastics means ito yung mga plastics po na tapos mong gamitin ng isang beses, itatapon mo na siya. Anong example niyan? So yung mga yung mga kapag bumili ka ng soft drinks at pinalagay mo sa isang plastic, instead na nandoon lang siya sa kanyang soft drink, sa kanyang botilya, it's considered to be a single-use plastic. Ano pa? Straw. Plastic straws are also considered to be single-use plastics. Ano pa? Pati po yung mga plastics na spoon and fork, if we only use them once, kasi hindi naman lahat ay hinuhugasan yan para magamit sa susunod, and that's yung paghuhugas niyan with soap and water is hindi masyadong nakakatulong to eliminate any potential bacteria and pathogens na nandoon sa kutsara, kaya yung iba tinatapon na lang at hindi nire-reuse ito. Kasi kapag yung mga plastic spoon and fork ay pinainit mo naman, lalambot naman sila at hindi mo na magagamit. So, ang nangyayari, ang tendency, itong mga spoon and forks na disposable, even yung disposable cups, tinatapon na lang after use. And that contributes to single-use plastic concentration increase, o yung dami ng population ng single-use plastics. And sadly, hindi lahat ng ito ay nare-recycle. So, I'd like to remind you lang, since we know na based from this, mahirap i-recycle, pinakamahirap i-recycle ang styrofoam, and basically lahat ng polymer na to ay napakatagal bago mag-degrade naturally in nature, then it's up to us humans to limit yung dami ng weight or mass ng plastics na napoproduce natin on our daily basis. So if you are capable of bringing your tumbler pa as container of your water para hindi ka na bumibili ng mga water, ng mga tubig na nakalagay sa PET bottles, even though they're recyclable, pero kung masyado tayong madami na gumagamit nun, then please use your tumblers na madadala ninyo every day, and then you can also refill it with your water. And if you have an option to use paper containers, then please do not resort into using polystyrene or even yung mga plastic containers natin. Okay? So that's how chemistry is put into work, specifically in the topics of polymers and recycling plastics. So that's the end of the discussion on chemistry of engineering materials. So hanggang dito po ang laman ng long test at saka ng final exam. So I hope that you get to understand how materials work, no, from metals to non-metals, to ionic solids, to crystals, and amorphous solids, and even sa semiconductors and polymers. So God bless on your review for the final exam. Thank you so much.